we have welcomed well over 50,000 Afghans over the last little while. That's something I think Canadians can be proud of.
Justin Trudeau has done it again. He has humiliated himself beyond belief. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today's top story here, Heinz Ketchup. Justin Trudeau throwing a company doing a lot of business in Canada under the bus. We've got Mark Carney holding private events. He also gets grilled at Davos. Among some other stories, let's jump into this. We've got Canada-Mexico steelmakers refuse new U.S. orders. Stelco has been telling U.S.-based consumers it is pausing sales quotes. It's starting to happen. This is not going to be pretty. Meanwhile, we've got Donald Trump here calling for a full audit of Ukraine funding. Love him or hate him, he's doing some things here that are off the map, that are out of the book. This is what we need in Canada. We need Poilievre in power. We need Poilievre calling for a full audit on Ukraine funding as well. And here we've also got Mark Carney being questioned in Davos.
I understand. My one question is, can the Canadian oil and gas sector survive the net zero approach that's being promoted here?
As I said, I never do. If you want an interview with me, like everybody else, you make a request and we can have an interview.
And will you accept that?
Like everybody else, if I can fit it in, okay?
How do you justify the...
If I can fit it in, come on, Carney. I don't think any of us are surprised he's at Davos for the World Economic Forum.
How does the UN climate envoy justify the massive carbon footprint here today? To set this up, this fake city for a week event. How did you get here? Did you fly? You walked?
Yeah.
Did you come on a private jet?
Of course not.
No, so how do you justify this? Look at all of this. For 1 week event, the carbon footprint is huge. Don't you think that's a bit hypocritical?
Oh, drop it.
No?
Drop it.
Drop it. Oh, really? Carney coming out here snapping. Little snapping turtle here. Didn't like that question.
Look, there's lots of progress being made. But look, I'm not doing a stand-up interview, okay?
Why not? You're walking that way anyways. I think people around the world, this year they say regaining trust. That's the whole purpose.
I do lots of media.
Friendly media.
No, I do. No, God, no.
The ones that are here invited.
Look, I'm doing no media at this one.
Can we sit down and I'll make a time with you and answer some actual tough questions?
You can make a request for a meeting, and
so you can deny it.
Look, as I say, with everyone else, you can do the same thing as with the guy from True North.
Yeah, he's a good guy, but I'm
a good guy. I'm sure you're a good guy as well. All people are good. It's absolutely right. But
the whole world is looking at this now, going, "You're a pack of hypocrites, and you're at the top of the chain there." What would you answer people? Just give me one answer to the people. Take care, sir.
Mark Carney does give it a rat's. This whole plan has been to flush his bank account with cash, take from the people, give to the rich, execute Klaus Schwab's master plan. Too late. Look what the NDP Liberal Coalition government has done to Canada. Change, really? He's getting the globalist elitist instructions from Davos and the WF just in time to rule Canada using their playbook. Meanwhile, in Canada, we've got this spotted at Shoppers Drug Mart. Look at this! Regular $1.44 on sale, 1 cent off. It even says it right there. This is so dumb. Trudeau's Canada, folks. This is where your savings are. 1 penny, which gets rounded up. What's also not pretty is this buffoon. So we can't have that audio, but I mean, look at this. This guy's driving down the highway with his hood up. Like, what is this? He's texting. He's texting. Look. This is jail time. This is 5 years in jail for stupidity. You're going to end someone's life doing this. Who has Trudeau brought in? The city is becoming unmanageable. What's also unmanageable is this whole situation with Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney. Look at this. Chrystia Freeland says she is happy to be running against the Ottawa establishment and that her campaign is reviving grassroots democracy. There's no grassroots democracy. You guys destroyed Canada, both of you. Mark Carney's there with them too. He's been whispering in Trudeau's ear for far too long. Meanwhile, we got Captain Schmuck here who put his shirt on backwards. Like, come on, Trudeau. Like, you can't even dress yourself. Is his mommy too busy in Cuba? Can't dress him now? Regarding the tariffs with Donald Trump, we got this story going around. So Justin Trudeau mentioning that they dropped Heinz Ketchup, they pick up French ketchup, going back like 10 years. The problem is now he's given the big middle finger to Heinz Ketchup, which you'll see here in a second. Is this the most embarrassing, ridiculous situation?
Import tariffs, like the 25% that President Trump is proposing, are actually paid or would be paid by American consumers. And if and when Canada needs to respond with equivalent tariffs on imports from the United States, those would be paid by Canadian consumers. That's why we will look, as we have in the past, at things that have replacements for Canadian consumers that wouldn't be tariffed. The example from last time was Heinz's ketchup being replaced by French's ketchup, because French's was still using Canadian tomatoes in its ketchup. Having Canadian consumers have alternatives to having to spend tariffs on American inputs.
So that's basically the situation. So he's mentioned this multiple times, and it looks bad for Heinz every single time. So now we've got Heinz coming out with a marketing campaign saying made in Canada by Canadians with Canadian tomatoes. They're having to defend their brand because the Prime Minister is hurting a company doing business in Canada. Now, I should say Heinz and French's are both American companies doing business in Canada. That's great. That creates jobs for us. That's great for our economy. But we have Heinz now protecting themselves. And it says from our growers in Leamington, Ontario. Now, Leamington, Ontario is where this all began. If we just go down memory lane here for a second, this right here, this facility, you can see it, which says Highbury Canco, is the Leamington, Ontario factory. And so tomatoes getting grown out here were then used by Heinz to create ketchup here. Back in 2013, Warren Buffett, who was in control of Heinz, decided to cut 3 factories, one of them being Canada. He didn't care. He was doing some numbers and math, and he just cut some numbers because he's a business guy. He didn't think of the consequences of it. And there was a huge backlash of people saying, well, we're not going to buy Heinz ketchup anymore because you're moving your business down to America. So 2 things happened immediately after. French's then stepped in and said, okay, we're going to step into that market and start making ketchup, because Heinz was already making mustard, which was eating into their profits. So French's decided to start making ketchup to combat Heinz. So what French's did is started buying up the Leamington, Ontario tomatoes and processing them in their facility to make ketchup in Toronto. And while this was going on, Heinz was like, okay, we don't want you to lose all those jobs. There's 700 jobs. So then they made a deal with this company here, Highbury Canco, who stepped in and continued this factory going. There's only a delay of 4 days between Heinz shutting down and Highbury Canco taking over. And then they started producing Heinz products there, relabeling stuff, etc. So the only difference was they weren't using those Canadian tomatoes. All this stemmed from Warren Buffett trying to shut down 3 of these factories. So essentially, Heinz was able to maintain most of the jobs. I think it's 600 of the 700 jobs still here. This factory's still here. But because of all that, French's then stepped up and started buying these tomatoes. So it was actually good for Canada that this all worked out. Now, what's really stupid, because Justin Trudeau keeps making these comments, and now we've got Heinz defending themselves. So Heinz has come back since this event, and now they are back producing ketchup in Canada from the growers in Leamington, Ontario. You can see here in Leamington, Ontario, you can see Heinz and Kraft merged in 2015. And what's notable about that is Justin Trudeau got into power in 2015, but the Liberals have been drilling down at Heinz back then, even though Kraft Heinz has upped their production in Canada, going back from their merger in 2015. But today, now here's the real kicker. As you can see, we're in Montreal here. This is Justin Trudeau's constituency office. And just 10 minutes south is Heinz Ketchup that produces ketchup with Canadian tomatoes. You can't make this stuff up. Here's Heinz big facility here, right here. This is where they produce the ketchup. It's right here, Kraft Heinz. Only Justin Trudeau, this guy who can't dress himself properly, would be insulting companies making Canadian products in Canada, as it says here, prepared in Canada, tomatoes grown in Canada. What else can you ask for here? And on top of this, Warren Buffett, the guy who created this problem, sold all his shares in Heinz back, I believe, in 2023, a couple years ago. So he's not even involved in this anymore. If Trudeau wants to take shots of companies leaving Canada and going to America, maybe he should take aim at Brookfield Asset Management. You know, the company Mark Carney was chair of, them moving their offices from Canada down to America. Basically, this situation ended up having Heinz not use Canadian tomatoes for 5 years, but now they actually employ more people, 1,000 people versus 700 before, 300 more jobs in Canada, and they're buying way more tomatoes than they did before. So for Trudeau to come after Heinz, it just seems absolutely ridiculous, considering they made a deal to not have those 700 jobs get lost either. I'm not a Heinz fanboy. I went and grabbed the ketchup I use here out of my fridge. This stuff here has no sugar in it. I can't consume refined sugar, otherwise I have massive inflammation. This stuff doesn't have any added sugar. It also doesn't taste like typical ketchup, but this too is also made in Canada. from Canadian tomatoes. So the net result of this, because Justin Trudeau is running his mouth, he's putting Canadian jobs at risk, and Heinz is having to run these marketing campaigns to clear up his screw up. Look at this. Our team at Montreal, Quebec, we're proud to be the biggest buyer of tomatoes in Ontario and employ over 1,000 Canadians at our plant. And now Trudeau's potentially putting real Canadian jobs at risk. You can't make this up. Next up, we got Adam Vancouver in here endorsing Mark Carney. This is cringe.
That's why I'm endorsing my friend, Mark Carney, to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada and the next Prime Minister of Canada. Mark, you got this, man.
All right, man. Thanks, Adam. That means the world to me.
Of course he would have his endorsement. This guy's a climate nut just like Mark Carney. And here he is talking about carbon tax.
You know, when you look at something like carbon pricing, where it goes to the heart of it's first and foremost, it's making this economy more competitive, more sustainable jobs. It's helping us do our bit on climate change. It's also making sure that Canadians.
This guy is no different than Trudeau. He's worse than Trudeau, and he puts on this Oilers toque, trying to be a man of the people. We're not buying this dude.
Come out ahead right now and then in the future. And what you're going to see from my campaign, my group, working with people like Stephen and many others across this country, across the party, is a solution that works for everyone, addresses all those aspects. That's cost of living, that's jobs, that's competitiveness, and that's building the strongest economy in the G7.
Yeah, I don't think the people of Jasper would agree. What's Skibo's plan, to burn down all the cities so nobody can emit any carbon into the air? Pick me now, best Weffer, bankster, highly endorsed financial wizard. If we got Mark Carney at an event here, he's not really answering any questions unless they come from CBC.
Going through here.
Mr. Carney, why haven't you released a policy yet? Are you speaking to media? Mr. Carney, why haven't you?
This is so embarrassing to watch. These guys are all losers. Our country is burning down, and all they're doing is having their little parties here. And here he is coming out of his event.
Mr. Carney, why haven't you announced a policy yet? Mr. Carney. Mr. Carney, why haven't you announced a policy yet?
I've got lots of policies. You'll see them.
Yeah, but why haven't you? You could be Prime Minister in the matter of weeks. Why wouldn't you tell the Canadian people what they're in for?
Canadians are going to know exactly what we intend to do by the end of the leadership, and we're going to roll it out, and they're going to be detailed. And that's the difference between sitting in a room, coming up with some slanders and slogans, and actually having detailed policy that are going to make a difference for Canadians.
Would you scrap the carbon tax? Yes or no? Yes or no?
You'll see by the end of the week.
Yes or no, sir?
By the end of the week.
Not
for the week.
I called you the PMO's choice for leadership. What's your response?
I seem to be the choice of many of the Liberal MPs.
So smug and arrogant. Little snapping turtle here. He's got to go. He's got to share what his boss Klaus had to say. So he says at the end of the week his stance on the carbon tax. But don't worry, he's got Stephen Guilbeault working on that. Meanwhile, we've got Donald Trump talking about taking over Canada again.
The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we may be a very substantially enlarged country in the not too distant. Isn't it nice to see, you know, for years, for decades, where the same size to the square foot probably got smaller, actually. But we might be an enlarged country pretty soon. And one of the things we're going to be doing is drill, baby, drill. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's going to bring everything down.
Is that drill baby drill in Canada or America? How can the days get any darker in Canada? This guy here is saying this is a fork in the road. Either we join them or frantically become self-sufficient. That is just the truth there. Trudeau spent $52 billion on EV programs that have all failed. So now we're screwed. Meanwhile, we've got this buffoon Mark Miller running his mouth about asylum seekers and how we're lucky to take in people.
Donald Trump signed an executive order that has stopped Afghan asylum seekers who had their paperwork previously cleared from entering the U.S. at all, and similar moves toward refugees from other countries. Do you see a role for Canada stepping in this place?
Well, look, Canada will continue to remain a humanitarian country. We have welcomed well over 50,000 Afghans over the last little while. That's something I think Canadians can be proud of. We've welcomed tens of thousands of Syrian refugees, and we currently have well over 300,000 Ukrainians that we're housing temporarily as the war goes on in Ukraine. The U.S. decision, as unfortunate as it is theirs, and we'll continue to do our job as a country that does have a heart and does care about resettlement of people that are fleeing war. We are, I think, the top resettlement country in the world. UNHCR recognizes that. I don't see that ending anytime.
Yeah, that's because you guys give $82,000 to people who show up at the door. Meanwhile, Canadians are sleeping in tents, you bonehead.
Soon, there is a limit to our ability to do things, and we can't obviously do everything.
We can't be everything to everyone, just everything to the people landing at the beaches in the boats, yet nothing to Canadians who actually pay the taxes for this entire country. As this comment here says, they basically don't understand what's going on, or they're consciously evil and trying to destroy the country. Yeah, I mean, which one is it? I personally think it's a whole scheme to get rich off of the real estate market. They bought a bunch of houses, brought in a whole ton of people, they got rich. Trudeau's got a real estate development company, and we got Mark Carney being hounded by reporters again.
You say you're the outsider, but it looks like the party establishment is lining up behind you.
No, c'est une question the issue of deputies, elected members, ministers, others, liberals across the country who are making a choice and are making a choice about the importance of the economy, the importance of coming together, building together. That's a free choice. This is the Liberal Party. We believe in freedom and we believe in good judgment, and thus far, Liberals are showing.
Believe in freedom? Bill C-63, have you heard of that one? Not a lot of freedom there. Bill C-69, Bill, you name them all. Just going back here for a second, look at this. You got Guilbeault, you got, what's this guy's name? All these liberals in here. Adam Van Couverden back there. These guys all licking Carney's calluses, hoping to get a cabinet position or stay in cabinet. It's just all very pathetic. This posted by Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. 100% China is behind Carney. So posting this, okay, Canada Snow Goose Media, interesting. Says Mark Carney is promoted by Canada Snow Goose Media, which was founded in Canada in 2019, yet it maintains an official account with an IP address that shows it's operating in Sichuan, China. Are we surprised by this? I don't think so. Meanwhile, we got Donald Trump laying into Justin Trudeau again.
I asked him, why would we do that? Why? And he was unable to give me an answer. He said, I don't know. And I said, do you think it's fair that we're paying $200 billion to keep Canada going? And what would happen? I asked him, what would happen if we didn't do that, if we didn't subsidize Canada? He said, we'd be a failed nation. And I said, then you should be a state, because why are we paying all of that money to Canada when, you know, we could use it ourselves, right? So we take care of their military. You know, we're going to order about 40 Coast Guard big icebreakers, big ones. And all of a sudden, Canada wants a piece of the deal. I say, why are we doing that? I mean, I like doing that if they're a state, but I don't like doing that if they're a nation. Also, they've been very nasty to us on trade. Historically, Canada has been very, very bad to us, very unfair to us on trade. So we'll see how it all works out. I would love to see Canada be the 51st state.
I find it hard to understand a leader would say that to a U.S. president, that we would be a failed state. How come Trudeau hasn't come stating that he didn't say that? Because Trudeau's a weak loser. He doesn't even care. That's the problem. Justin Trudeau's such a weak little man. He's afraid of Trump. He's not going to say anything. Trudeau's not known for his intellectual ability or ability to lead an economic globalist country. Everyone knows Biden and his close negotiator were advising him. How many times is Justin Trudeau going to embarrass himself? Before he's out of office here, he's smearing Heinz' reputation through the mud, even though they've come back to Canada and are producing ketchup in Canada with Canadian tomatoes. If he wants to use an example of swapping one product for a Canadian product, it has to be one that's up to date with not such a complicated history, as you heard with the Heinz Ketchup in Leamington, Ontario. I bet Trudeau and his team didn't even look into it. I mean, these are the guys who have the $400 million STTC scandal going on. Do they care about things like that? No. They care about Canadians? No. It's all optics. The clock's ticking here, just a few days from February 1st. What will happen with the tariffs?